missiles and drones against Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities. At the same time, NATO's top military commander delivered an unusually direct warning. If Russia ever attacked the Baltic states, Moscow would lose a lot. At first glance, these appear to be separate stories. One is about drone warfare, another is about missile strikes, the third concerns NATO deterrence. But behind the headlines, they may actually be chapters of the same geopolitical story. Because this conflict is no longer simply about Ukraine defending its territory. It has become the world's largest laboratory for the future of warfare. And the real question isn't whether either side can launch another massive attack. It's whether this war is quietly reshaping military strategy across Europe and perhaps the world. For much of the conflict, attention has focused on frontline battles in eastern Ukraine. Maps showing small villages changing hands have dominated military analysis. But over the past year, something significant has happened. The battlefield has expanded hundreds of kilometers beyond the front lines. Instead of concentrating exclusively on trenches and armored offensives, both Ukraine and Russia are increasingly targeting logistics, industry, command centers, energy infrastructure, and military production. The latest attacks illustrate that evolution. According to Ukrainian officials, approximately 400 drones were launched toward Moscow and other regions, forcing Russian air defenses into one of their largest defensive operations of the war. Russia, meanwhile, answered with another overnight barrage involving cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones targeting Kyiv and multiple cities. Residents once again spent hours inside underground metro stations serving as bomb shelters. The exchange demonstrates something military planners have quietly recognized for months. This war is becoming less about capturing individual towns, and increasingly about exhausting an opponent's ability to sustain the conflict. But here's where it gets interesting. People often measure military strength by counting tanks, aircraft, or soldiers. Drone warfare changes that equation. One sophisticated fighter aircraft may cost well over $80 million. An interceptor missile can cost hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Many long-range drones cost only a tiny fraction of that. That creates a strategic imbalance. If an attacker launches hundreds of relatively inexpensive drones, defenders may be forced to expend extremely costly interceptor missiles to destroy them. Military analysts sometimes describe this as the economics of modern air defense. Winning isn't simply about shooting everything down. It's about whether the cost of defending becomes unsustainable over time. This may be one of the most important military lessons emerging from Ukraine. History offers an interesting comparison. During World War II, Britain survived Germany's Blitz because it maintained industrial production despite repeated bombing. Factories kept operating, infrastructure recovered, civilian morale endured. Today's conflict reflects similar dynamics, but with 21st century technology. Instead of large bomber formations, swarms of autonomous drones arrive at low altitude from multiple directions. Instead of mass industrial bombing campaigns, precision attacks focus on military factories, fuel depots, radar systems, and logistics hubs. The technology has changed dramatically. The underlying strategic objective has not. Disrupt your opponent's ability to keep fighting. This brings us to the first major question. Why launch hundreds of drones toward Moscow? At first glance, it might appear symbolic. After all, Russia possesses one of the world's largest integrated air defense networks. Many incoming drones are intercepted before reaching their intended targets. Critics therefore argue that these attacks produce limited military value. There is some truth to that argument. Not every drone reaches its objective, but military strategy isn't measured solely by destruction. Every large drone attack forces Russia to activate expensive air defense systems. Military aircraft may be scrambled. Civil aviation is frequently disrupted. Industrial activity slows. Emergency services mobilize. Electronic warfare assets become engaged. All of those responses consume resources. Perhaps more importantly, they demonstrate that even heavily defended regions remain vulnerable. Psychological pressure has always been part of warfare, and long-range drone operations increasingly serve both military and psychological purposes simultaneously. But there is another dimension that receives far less attention. Russia isn't only defending cities, it is defending an enormous military-industrial network. Factories producing missiles, drone assembly plants, fuel depots, rail junctions, command facilities, air bases. Every successful strike, even if relatively small, forces Moscow to reconsider how it distributes air defenses across the country. Should more systems protect Moscow? Or should they remain near the front, protect military production, or civilian infrastructure? These are difficult choices, because air defense resources, no matter how advanced, are never unlimited. Ukraine understands this. Rather than overwhelming one location, recent operations increasingly appear designed to stretch Russian defenses across multiple regions simultaneously. That strategy mirrors principles first seen during Cold War planning, where forcing an adversary to defend everywhere often proved more effective than attacking one location repeatedly. Now let's turn to Russia's response. Moscow continues emphasizing overwhelming firepower, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, Shahed-type drones, combined attack packages intended to complicate Ukrainian air defenses. The objective extends beyond physical destruction. Repeated large-scale attacks force Ukraine to consume interceptor missiles at a rapid pace. Western governments have provided advanced systems, including Patriot batteries and other air defense platforms, but interceptor missiles require continuous production. Manufacturing takes time. Stockpiles are finite. This creates an ongoing logistical competition. Who can sustain high-intensity operations longer? That question may ultimately prove more important than individual battlefield victories. But this is the critical part. The war is no longer influencing only Russia and Ukraine. NATO is watching every engagement with extraordinary attention. This week, NATO's senior military commander delivered one of the alliance's clearest deterrence messages yet. General Alexis Grinkowicz warned that Russia would lose a lot if it attacked any NATO member, particularly the Baltic states. Those words matter, because military deterrence depends not only on capabilities, but on credibility. Throughout the Cold War, NATO sought to convince potential adversaries that any attack on one member would trigger a unified response. Today's statements suggest that message remains central, yet they also acknowledge another reality. Ukraine has fundamentally changed how European militaries think about war. What few people realize is how quickly NATO doctrine has evolved. Only a few years ago, many European armies focused primarily on expeditionary operations missions far from home. Today, priorities look very different. Drone production has expanded dramatically. Electronic warfare investment has accelerated. Air defense procurement has increased. Countries once reducing defense budgets are now spending levels not seen for decades. Germany announced historic defense reforms. Poland has become one of Europe's fastest-growing military powers. The Baltic states continue strengthening border defenses. Finland and Sweden joined NATO, extending the alliance's northern frontier. These changes are not isolated decisions. They reflect lessons learned directly from Ukraine. Some observers argue Russia has little interest in confronting NATO directly. That remains a reasonable assessment. A conflict with the alliance would involve enormous military risks. Russia understands Article 5. NATO understands Article 5. Deterrence exists precisely because both sides recognize the potential costs. However, others argue that ambiguity itself creates danger. Military miscalculations have triggered larger conflicts throughout history. The First World War offers perhaps the clearest example. No major power initially sought a prolonged global conflict. Yet, alliance commitments, mobilization schedules, and political decisions gradually transformed a regional crisis into world war. Today's circumstances are very different. But the lesson remains relevant. Clear communication often reduces the risk of accidental escalation. Another counterargument suggests drone warfare is being overhyped. Some analysts believe traditional artillery, armored vehicles, and infantry will ultimately determine outcomes. There is certainly truth in that. No military has won a war using drones alone. Territory is still controlled by soldiers, cities are still defended by ground forces, logistics still require conventional infrastructure. Yet drones have fundamentally altered how those forces operate. Armored columns now move differently. Supply routes require constant surveillance. Command posts are harder to conceal. Even individual infantry units increasingly rely on drones for reconnaissance. Rather than replacing traditional warfare, drones have become deeply integrated into it. There is also the economic dimension. Wars of attrition are rarely decided purely by battlefield tactics. Industrial production matters. Access to components matters. International support matters. Ukraine continues relying heavily on Western military assistance. Russia continues adapting its domestic defense industry while maintaining relationships with external partners for critical technologies. This resembles another historical pattern. During the Second World War, industrial capacity often determined strategic endurance more than individual battles. Today's equivalent may not be steel production alone. It could be semiconductor manufacturing, drone assembly, precision electronics, artificial intelligence, electronic warfare. The industrial competition has simply entered a new technological era. Behind the headlines, this is why recent drone attacks deserve attention. They aren't isolated tactical events. They represent an evolving military doctrine. Mass drone swarms, layered missile attacks, electronic warfare, cyber operations, satellite intelligence, artificial intelligence-assisted targeting. Modern warfare increasingly combines all of these simultaneously. Future military planners from Washington to Beijing are studying these engagements in remarkable detail. Every successful interception, every failed interception, every adaptation becomes a lesson for future conflicts. So where does this leave Europe? The answer depends on whether deterrence continues holding. If Russia confines military operations to Ukraine, NATO will likely continue supporting Kyiv while avoiding direct combat. If escalation spreads beyond Ukraine's borders, alliance commitments become far more consequential. For now, both sides appear determined to avoid that scenario. Yet military history reminds us that prolonged wars often produce unexpected turning points. Small incidents sometimes create disproportionately large consequences. That is precisely why officials pay such close attention to rhetoric as well as military action. Words can reassure, they can deter, but they can also raise expectations. The real story isn't simply that Ukraine launched hundreds of drones, or that Russia launched another devastating missile barrage. It's that the nature of warfare itself is changing before our eyes. The traditional distinction between the battlefield and the homeland is disappearing. Cities hundreds of kilometers from the front now experience air raid alerts. Factories have become strategic targets. Economic resilience has become a military capability. Technology has compressed distance in ways previous generations could scarcely imagine. And every new exchange accelerates that transformation. So perhaps the most important question isn't who fired more drones this week, or which side intercepted more missiles. The real question we should be asking is this: when historians look back at the war in Ukraine, will they remember it primarily as a territorial conflict, or as the moment that permanently changed how wars are fought in the 21st century? The answer may determine not only Europe's future security, but the military strategies of every major power for decades to come. If you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to Cobalt, where we go beyond the headlines to explain the strategy, technology, and geopolitics shaping tomorrow's conflicts. Until next time, thanks for watching.